the Podfix Network. Hello and welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast.
This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking.
From indie film to studio films and
everything in between.
How to get them made, how to make them, how to try not to
royally F them up.
In Dom's very humble opinion, but my actual opinion.
Which isn't humble.
I say that every week. Welcome to the show. This is a great one. We're absolutely delighted.
I'll ask me what it's about.
What is it about, Dom?
Pray do tell.
From those who've read the title of this episode, you'll have got Dom's pun then. If you haven't and you just click play in your ears, you'll have no idea. And you think, oh, what's Dom saying again? But actually, it was a good one, because this week we have on the director and producer of
Prey.
We have Jhane Myers, the producer of Prey, and director Dan Trachtenberg, director of Prey. Dan is also the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I loved. Also love Prey as well. And both these guests are amazing. Jhane and Dan gave us some amazing advice, but we didn't record them at the same time. It was a kind of one of the junkets they were doing for all the amazing press, and we're delighted to be involved in that. But that meant we got 20 minutes with each of them. So these are separate interviews. So who should we start with first? Either Jhane or Dan? You have to say Jhane.
I'm going to go with Jhane because Giles has just said we have to go with Jhane. But also because we did it chronologically, so I think it makes sense in terms of, maybe what we talked about. Yeah,
and Jhane talks about how, she got the film made, and I think that's important. And Jhane talks about how Prey came about. She also talks about script work, creating backstory, how she was the only producer on set, and the fights and stunts and all the training that went into making Prey.
She also talks about turning down Marvel, how she got the job on Prey as a producer, and being very hands-on on set.
And she talks about what she learnt from being on set, and she gives you some amazing advice.
And on top of that, most importantly, she also talks about the importance of dealing with real bears.
Real bears. Like, kind of a bit like you are now.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm Giles Alderson, and you are...
Dom Lenoir.
And Dom Lenoir is sat in his bedroom, and he's shirtless. So he is bare.
I am shirtless, but not pantless. I'm gonna... I mean, to be fair, the context, it's been a long day, it's muggy, it's sweaty, everyone's tired, and we're doing this podcast intro recording the night before the episode goes live because we're busy guys.
Yes, I have been busy. There's a lot going on. I think Wolves of War is dropping its trailer and poster any day now as well. I think we've got release date on that.
Anything else of yours you want to plug?
Yeah, sure. Why not? The Dare's out now. I can get that everywhere. Arthur and Merlin, everywhere. Repeat. Serial Killer's Guide to Life. Followers. World's Darkness. Am I missing anything?
I hope not. Stranger in Our Bed is now out. I think it's doing quite well in some Hulu or something, is it?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, Dom. You didn't have to, but yes. Yes, it got to number 4 in the Hulu chart.
Yes, very nice.
That's incredible. I didn't even know it was on Hulu.
Oh, right.
No idea.
I knew.
Someone messaged
because
me.
Do you know how I knew?
Did
because the interviews that I shot are all over Instagram. These lovely interviews.
Dom worked on the film as well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You wouldn't know it from the posts, but.
You got paid. They're like, we're not going to credit this guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I'm not desperate for a credit on there.
No,
but they are great interviews. Yeah, they are good.
To be fair, they are great interviews. Dom,
the film's okay. But the interviews
are where it's at. So true. Go on Instagram, watch the interviews, and give it 10 out of 10 on IMDb for the interviews. To be fair, we've been getting a lot of love so far.
Yeah, no, the people seem to like the movie. They do, and it's it's a cool thriller, and it's always good to look at gaslighting and those topics of just all these
abusive relationships and
emotionally abusive relationships and
then jumps into all those. So it's out in the UK September the 5th. Thank you for the plug there, Dom. September the 5th. Thank you, Dom. I appreciate that plug because I wouldn't have brought it up.
You always do.
What's this podcast for if we can't promote our work? Dom is the superstar director of Winter Ridge, everyone. If you haven't watched this by now and you listen to this podcast, you are not his friend. It's still mine, though.
Yep, it's true.
It's amazing. What if you're talking of great thrillers?
Yeah.
It's a great thriller, and it stars
Emmy award-winning,
Emmy nominated.
Emmy winning. Didn't she win the Emmy?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she won the Emmy. Yeah.
Hannah Waddingham.
And to be fair, if you watch the film, you'll see a fully emotional, brilliant performance from her as well. So if you want to see what Hannah did before. I mean, let's forget her extremely important musical career that she had. That's nothing to do with me. But before, let's also forget Game of Thrones and some of the high-profile TV stuff. But before Ted Lasso, she did Winter Ridge. So,
there you go. And after Winter Ridge, she was on this very podcast. She has been on this podcast. That's enough of us whittering on, right?
No, it's not enough of her. You plugged like 17 projects, so. I
have got 17. Yes.
What have you been up to, Dom? Oh. Been on set, Giles.
No one cares. They're all skipping through this bit now. Wait, what? Dom, tell us what you've been on set. Yeah. Tell us about it.
With my favourite pals, the Shakespeare.
Let me guess. The Shakespeare Sisters.
The Shakespeare Sisters.
Yeah. Have you been doing more of the unreason?
I have the fun reason, as I call it, because it's such extraordinary fun.
The dumb reason.
The dumb reason.
The dumb reason.
No,
I worked on the film too.
It's tremendous fun, actually. You did, Giles. You did a very good job of
marshalling the troops.
Marshalling the troops, yes.
As a first AD. Dom was like, when he said, "Oh, come and do this movie with the Shakespeare Sisters." I love the Shakespeare Sisters. I love to, Dom. He was like, "Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there every day." Was Dom there every day? Was he? Fuck.
Sometimes it's a balance between following your own dreams and responsibilities. And the first third of the shoot, I was 100% following the responsibilities. The second part, there was a compromise, and I wasn't there all the time. The third part, I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm showing up to for duty. It's going very well. It's a very funny film.
It is funny. It's very funny.
The leads are. Good. They're good folks. They're real people. They run a shop of vintage clothing. They also happen to travel back in time and steal things from different eras in real life.
What have you learned from producing that and helping get that made?
It's hard to say. I think you learn different things from everyone you work with. I think the Shakespeare Sisters are good at several things. They're very good at networking, and they're good at just like being quite a good sort of energy.
And it's so important to have that amazing energy, relentlessness, brilliant at networking, and they get stuff made.
Stuff done, and and they're sharp kids. They know what they're doing, and it's a joy to work with them. And I've worked with them in varying capacities of different projects. And one thing I've realised as I get older is that I'd actually rather work with certain people on different things than necessarily. I'd rather do that. I'd rather produce or work as a producer on someone else's film that I really respect than direct something that I don't care about. Like that's the reality. Yes. There's certain things where directing, I will only do something that's like very, very close and important. But you've got to choose what keeps you happy, and it's working with good people at the end of the day, good projects.
It's so important, and it actually really is, and it's something I've said in various events I've done or talks, is if you're not with the right people, jump ship. You need to get your projects made. If someone's dragging you down, if someone's dragging their heels, whatever it is, you've got to find the right people, because otherwise you're in all sorts of shit, and it's so hard to move sometimes. It really is, but it's your career, and you've got to do it. If it's not working, you've got to do it.
It is, and you don't always have to be doing the job that you want to do. There are great projects and there's great teams, and you always learn so much by doing other things. Giles has done production managing. I've done production managing. Giles has done ADing. Cos just did some action ADing. On another film. All of us have done various features. We've done more than one feature. We're all very experienced directors, but we like working with other people, and I think that's important.
And I think you learn so much from being on other people's sets. I learned loads from being on The Unreason. I learned loads from when I production managed or I've produced or whatever I've done for other people. You learn, and that's how you get better as a filmmaker. Sitting in your bedroom talking about it doesn't make you a better filmmaker. Being on set does. So any chance you
as we're doing right now,
topless. talking about it. But we're doing it at the same time. So it's, we're on set all the time. As busy prepping for stuff right now, and it's an exciting time. It's a very exciting time. 3-Day Millionaire, by the way, talking of that.
We weren't talking about that.
Will be delivered this week. What else is happening, Dom?
Filmmaking is a relentless struggle at the end of the day when it's stuff you really want to do, and it is very hard to get stuff made, and you just sort of have to. I think it's very much like you're at the sort of the point in a war movie where you're the general and you're giving that speech before everyone's about to jump over the edge and into uncertain death and face overwhelming odds. Except you're giving yourself that speech every time you get up and you have to deal with whoever the hell you're trying to deal with to get your film made, because you've got to go with that level of like energy, enthusiasm, determinedness, determinedness, yeah. Determination.
Determination.
That might even be the word that makes sense. One of those things. But you have to literally have that every single day, despite the fact that you are up against a shrinking indie industry. You're up against massive studios. You're just There's oversaturation in crew. Cast are very hard to. It's very hard to get cast with so many productions in place, and that's what you're up against, and you just have to sort of plug through it.
Let's get to our first guest of today's Filmmakers podcast. It is Jhane Myers. She has been the Native American advisor for films like Magnificent Seven, Apocalypto, The Lone Ranger, and 1883, the big TV series. And this is her debut as a solo producer called Prey. You will have heard of it. It's the Predator prequel, which stars Amber Midthunter as Naru, the lead, and of course,
the CGI bear.
Let's get to it, and we will jump in after this one and introduce Dan Trachtenberg. But for now, they should sit back, relax, listen to myself, Dom, and Jhane, and do what, Dom?
Enjoy!
Hey, Jhane.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Yeah?
Is it morning for you?
Yes.
Oh, is it morning as well? Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry. It's morning for us.
Wait, where are you?
We're UK.
So am I. I'm here.
Oh,
okay.
What? We should be in the same room. This is
That's
crazy.
why didn't you do it in person? That would have been better.
Would have been
Well, we
I'm
so
so tired of
pretend. We can
Zooms. I
pretend.
want to see people.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We're so sorry.
Are you coming to the film tonight?
No, we've seen it already. We
Oh,
loved
that's
it.
right, because you saw this.
Yeah, we saw the screen.
It was very good, I have to say.
It was very
Did
good.
you like it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a
Yeah.
huge Predator fan, sort of going back to when I was a kid and feeling that feeling of the Predator. So having this, like the origin story, not an origin story, that doesn't make sense, but a story of that, it's brilliant. It's really good. You should be very proud.
We grew up in those 90s, sort of 80s action films, and
Same here.
It was such a big thing for little boys, little girls. We all love those like action films when you're just getting to that sort of young adult level and
Yeah.
you see those things. It's like, wow, this is so unbelievably cool.
Same with you, Jane. You said same with you. You
Absolutely.
grew up. Oh, wow. How was it then to get sort of the introduction that you might be working on this film? Or
It was great. Pre-pandemic or like at the pandemic, I had a lot of films that were put on hold and different jobs were put on hold. So then I started like interviewing for extra things. This was the last thing that I interviewed for. And when I did, I just told my rep, get rid of everything else. I want to do this. Wow. And I was really excited to do it. And I was excited to meet Dan.
of course. Yeah, the legend Dan. 10 Cloverfield Lane is an incredible movie, and
The Boys.
blew up with it. And I know he's been trying to make Prey for quite a while.
He has.
Quite a while. So it's quite interesting that, it's now coming out after the pandemic, but also going, quite to streaming services as well. And I find that really interesting and fascinating. What happened then when you first got that? The call came in, like you say. Talk us through that and talk us through what you thought you might be doing on the film.
Well, I got contacted by Scott Aversano, and he is our executive vice president of 20th Century. And he said, I've been looking for a native producer, and I think what this film is lacking, or what it really needs, is a native producer to bring, all the native part alive. And would you be interested? And he said he went to different places or talked to different people, and he said instead of people giving me a list, they just said, you need to talk to Jhane Myers. You need to talk to Jhane Myers. So his last thing to do, so the last thing he did was he called his counterparts at Marvel, because Marvel's in the Disney family. So he called Marvel and he said, hey, I heard that you're, because they're filming Echo right now. So he said, I heard that you've been talking to native producers. Is there anybody that stands out? And they were like, yes, we met this woman named Jhane Myers. And he was like, that's all everybody keeps telling me. So he called me because he wanted to meet me, and it was during pandemic kind of time, so he had to meet me on Zoom and everything. And he said, I got to see what this woman is about. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I had just interviewed for Marvel as well. So I took this over the Marvel job when it was The Predator. And I'm Comanche. I'm a full-blood Native American. So I'm on the Comanche role. I'm an enrolled Comanche, but I'm also Blackfeet. So the fact that I could work on content that was actually my culture and my tribe, I was like, I'm in.
Perfect.
When I first got the script from Dan, I interviewed with Dan. When he sent me the script, it said all dialogue in Comanche. I was like, yes, I'm dying to do this. So,
and was the script in a kind of a place where you thought, yes, this is really authentic, or did you feel like there was a lot that you could input with your own kind of your own sort of input?
Well, Patrick Eisen is a really good writer, and he and Dan developed the script and the screenplay. So it was okay. It was, it was in a good state, but I was able to add a few things. Like we changed character names. It's kind of hard when you're native, and usually like in a script, there'll be like Native 1, or Indian 1, Indian 2, Indian, and like, so we kind of gave people names and created, kind of beefed up their parts and created more of a backstory or more of a story for them. So it was really good.
Well, you started off doing that. Well, it'd be interesting to know how you got into doing Apocalypto and The Lone Ranger, because when you first started, that's fascinating for us, of how you transitioned and got into that world. And then, now you are producing Prey.
Right. Well, when I started, when I lived in Oklahoma, I had my own PR company, Jhane Myers and Associates, and my PR company dealt in tribal and community public relations. So we would take big companies when they wanted to make inroads into tribes, and we would be that person, to plan how they would do it, do the introductions and everything. So from that, I started getting into, I guess, more into the entertainment side of it. I started getting bigger entertainment clients. And funny you should say that, because I'm here in London, and one of my former clients is here because he was working on a musical with Larry Gatlin. I started doing music clients, and then I started, doing film clients, and that's kind of how I came. I think I should say I came through the back door of the Disney publicity. Start working with their publicity arm and their marketing, which was really great. So I've had like a really unique career working all kinds of not only just producing, but doing many different aspects within the film world. So I feel like I'm pretty well-rounded. It's weird to be sitting here and doing this, because usually I'm on the other side running this, junket thing.
Yeah.
So it's like now I'm here and I'm kind of like, oh.
Yeah, that must be fascinating watching them do all the stuff you normally or had done in the past.
Yes.
So now you're the one being moved
now
around.
I'm the one doing it. So
yeah, which must be incredible. I think that's really interesting that you mentioned about how it's important, I suppose, for filmmakers to do more than just be a producer or just be a director, to understand the business, for you to understand PR and marketing, and to understand associate producing, to understand, being cultural advisor for so many films as well. Hugely important for when things happen. I do much prefer filmmakers to have held a boom, or to have done a bit of makeup or anything. It just
Are you kidding? I have even been catering. I have.
Great. Yeah.
I've done everything. I've been the driver. I've done catering. I've done it all. Especially when you think of, I've done a lot with native filmmakers, and when you think of native films and native film projects, they're all done with a micro budget.
Yep.
So they're very, very small. So that means, if you're on the team, you're going to be wearing more than one hat, right? And that was kind of a weird thing when I crossed over, especially when I did this project. It was up in... We lived in Canada for 6.5 months.
Calgary, right? Yeah.
In Calgary to shoot this because the borders were closed, which was kind of unusual because then I didn't get my usual, where you get to go visit or have your family up or anything. It was just us, like in this little bubble. But I think when I first got there, it was different because I'm so used to doing everything. People were like, I don't think she thinks I can do this, or she doesn't think I can do this, because I was very hands-on and, this is how you should do this, and let's do this. And they were just like, Jhane picked up this thing and moved it. And, I'm kind of like,
and now
it needed to be moved.
It's such a weird thing, isn't it? Like, because as an indie filmmaker, like, you're used to just being like a mad rush. But, the higher up you go, like, the more, like, don't touch that.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
and I don't care. I just, like, pick it up and move it.
Let me radio through. And sometimes you'll go through, like, this radio chain of, like, 3 people that can see each other to tell someone over there that you could have asked direct. But, it works, and it is the studio system, and it's great to have those resources.
I think they were kind of shocked because, number one, you don't usually see a woman in this producing. And we had a very small, so usually on this type of film, you have, like, we do have more producers, but actually on hand there, on the in Calgary, I was the only one. And I had Marty Ewing, who is a line producer. We had just one of everything, right? So you did have to do. I felt like you need to do more, but I think the people there, it was unusual for them to see a woman in this position, and let alone a Native American woman. So, and I didn't care.
Yeah, you didn't care. And I love the fact that you were just like, I'm going to pick up this. And then everyone sort of probably went down the chain. Jhane's picking up thing. And then they couldn't do anything about it because you're the producer.
Let her, she's the producer.
The producer's not supposed to do that. She moved that, or I was like, it is not a big deal. I didn't feel like I was put out.
It shouldn't be. I get it why the unions say it, because obviously that the person whose job it is to move the tripod or whatever. Yeah, you want them to keep their jobs. Exactly. We totally get it, and safety reasons, etc. But at the same time, you're like, let's just get on with it, shall we? How was that then, sort of being that main producer for you, on-set producer? How did you find that whole process?
It was fun. I enjoyed it. Not a problem. I had the project I worked on before that, I directed and produced a segment for Ralph Lauren for the holiday campaign. Just prior to that, I directed, produced it, and I was in it. So I don't want to do that anymore.
Wow.
But
that's really hard.
That's really hard. And I line produced it too. So,
wow, glutton for punishment on that one.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, how do I go from, doing everything to, just doing minimal? But I couldn't say that this job was minimal because there was so much of the cultural aspect that had to be put in. We had to make sure that everything looked right and, felt right for the time period, because it's period. And this has been my dream project. Everybody says if you could have if you had a magic wand, and what would be your dream project? And it has to be this one. No, I don't know what the future holds for me, but I know that being able, usually when I'm hired, I'm working on native content, and native content's maybe 20% or 25% of the whole project. This was Comanche content, 100%. And then I want to say 110%, because that extra 10% came when we did the language dub. So we did a full Comanche dub.
Oh, that's amazing.
That added the extra 110% of native content on the project, which is huge.
It really is huge and so important.
It really is one of the things that makes the film so interesting, because there is such a, the native perspective and the connection with nature, and even the way that they fight and that they communicate, and the hierarchies. It's got so much to learn from it, and it's kind of, it's amazing to actually see it on screen. In terms of the fight sequences as well, there's a lot of action in this. How did that go in terms of rehearsals and putting things together, and the training and all that sort of things?
That was fabulous. I had an office in our production office, but then we had a separate building at a different location that we rented for the training, the fight sequences, because all of the core cast went through a boot camp. They had a 4-week boot camp, and I want to say Amber said it was 4 weeks, but I think it was more like 6 weeks or 5 weeks. But they worked with our stunt coordinator, and then he hired a native tactical person. So Comanches Comanches had sign language. So if you look at the ALS, the American Sign Language, that was all based on the trade sign language that the Comanches had. Wow. So what we did is we took our fight coordinator or like we took our tactical person with his sign language, and we blended the two together and created a sign language for the core cast to learn so they could talk to each other without, so you see that in the film, where they're doing hand signs and everything. So that was kind of a cool thing to do. But at the same place, we had hair, makeup, and then we also had wardrobe. So I know I had like an office in the production office. You could go like this across my desk and there would be like dust on it, right? Because I set up a satellite office in the other building because I wanted to be hands-on with all of this. It was so funny because I would have to do Zoom calls like this, with the studio. And so wardrobe or costuming they were so accommodating. So they brought like these rolling racks and they put these buffalo hides around them, and they put like little pictures, of all the different, things that we were making and everything. They put it behind me. And so when I would sit on my, calls, it looked like I was in a little office, or, I had like a little privacy area, which was kind of fun. Brilliant. But no, I wanted to be hands-on with everything. So I stationed myself there just to make sure that I saw how everything was going and developed everything.
And it's very important as the lead producer, to be hands-on, to be around, to be showing face rather than hiding away, making phone calls, doing whatever producers can do sometimes. And I'm the same, and Dom, you're the same. Love to be on set. How did it feel for you to be on set, to watch this happening? How was that whole process? What did you bring to the table in that side of things? It'd be really interesting.
I brought a lot to the table. I feel like I was very hands-on, and it's great. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so I'm an outdoors person. So I like to be outdoors a lot. Even when we were seeing our first, Dan will tell you this story because he does not like to be outside. So when we got up there and we were doing we were looking at, because making a film during Zoom in a different country, during the pandemic is difficult, right?
Feels like it's during Zoom.
Yeah. So they had a thing. They were like, oh, here's what it's going to look like. What do you think about these locations? Well, you don't know because you're seeing a picture on Zoom, right? And everything is covered in snow because they have so much snow. So when we got there in May, we still had to hike up to see some of these overlooks, like where she's brushing her teeth and walking with the dog. It's like a vertical. We had to snowshoe to get up there, and I snowshoe all the time. That's how I try to stay in shape. So I just put on the snowshoes, and I was right behind the guides, and I looked, and it's just the guides and I, and they're like, where is everybody? And they're all struggling, trying to, go up to this.
This is easy. What's wrong with you?
Go up to this peak. Yeah. Dan's always laughing. He's like, you know how to snowshoe? And I said, absolutely. I do this to stay in shape. And he was like, oh my God. So, just to see some of those locations, it took a trek and it took a different thing. So me being on set, it was like, okay, we saw this with snow, and you have to try to imagine how is this going to look without, right? When you have snow up waist high snow and still in May. Yeah. But we had a funny story because during the pandemic, everybody has to be tested at certain times to be on set, right? So Dan was like, oh, Jhane, I want a woman to be riding into camp on a horse, dismount and do this, but we forgot to we didn't hire a we didn't have a woman to ride a horse. We had just hired all these men because Amber's our lead and she's the woman of the show, right? And so he's like, I really thought a woman should be riding in. And I'm like, he said, but we have to get somebody tested and I can't shoot it today because if we got somebody, they'd have to be tested and you have to wait for their results, right? Yes. So I was like, well, I've been tested. I'll do it. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah. I said, I ride horses. And I've already been tested, so I'm clear. And he was like, really? So we didn't use that scene, but I rode in. And then in the opening scene where you see the two people on the horse, I'm the one on the left.
Oh, amazing.
Because I was tested. So it's like, oh. I said, I can solve this. And he was like, how? I said, I'll go do it.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? It's like, you just fill in there's no ego. It's just like, look, I can do this. This is what needs to be done for the film. I'll jump in and it's just great for the film, isn't it?
It's incredible. Can you tell us, because I know we've got to let you go very soon, but can you tell us some advice that you would give a producer jumping into a big project like this? Anything you learned that would help our listeners?
We had a crew of 330 people. Wow. So I think it's really important that you talk to everybody and you attend their separate individual meetings so they know that you're engaged and that you want to help them. And then I always just tell everybody, like my door is open. People weren't used to seeing a producer at this level be really hands-on. But because we had such a small, crew-wise, meaning producer-wise, and because we didn't even have any set visits from the studio.
Oh, right.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
It was great. That was great creatively. But, usually you have your people coming in and then you do the little dog and pony show and then come back out. So, but we didn't even have that because we shot during the pandemic. So I think just stay engaged and be really hands-on and just be ready to roll with whatever punch, you have. Because we overcame everything that we had a really good shoot. I can say that I've been on other shoots and there hasn't been anything that has run as smoothly as this one did. We were just able to get what we needed.
Oh, that's incredible. And how did you overcome problems, like you say, when there is those major problems as a producer? What did you do to overcome them? Was there something that you went, oh, okay, that was useful, or this wasn't, so I might not do that again? I
didn't really encounter anything I wouldn't do again, but it was kind of strange because shooting during the pandemic, we shot on the Stony Nakota land, which is a reserve up in outside of Calgary. And because everybody parked in one area, because, when you show up, everybody parks in an area in and then they get on the transport and go to set. We got reported because they thought it was a rodeo arena, but we weren't using the rodeo arena. We just used the parking lot to park. So somebody driving by reported us as because we were on a native thing, and they said that we were gathering illegally or whatever, because you weren't supposed to have big gatherings, and they just saw the cars, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a party.
And so I was on set and they were like, Jhane, can you come to the front and handle this? So that was kind of interesting, to come up and say, no, we're shooting a film, and when we shoot a film, everybody parks. Just I would probably never do that or even know that if it wasn't pandemic. And
how does that work in terms of working with the wildlife and, making an impact as a film, and is that kind of all cleared, or how did you sort of work with that from a sort of cultural level?
Yeah, we had a really good locations person that really cleared everything for us, but then the stuff that you don't expect shooting out in the wild like that, like in the bear scene, remember you saw the bear scene on the thing? We had to cross a river to get to that location. So if you had to go to the loo, you should have done it from the top of the hill, because it was a whole hike in, cross the river on a little boat. If you left, you had to cross back on a boat. So I sat on the other side where there was a little log so I could kind of watch everything, and everybody was freaked out that I was over there because the actual bears, real bears, were waking up during that time. And when they woke up from hibernation, they were hungry. So every time that we shot, we had a bear guard with us.
Oh, right.
Just because the real bears may walk into the thing and,
Get into a fight with a CGI bear. And
yes. The guy in the gray suit, you get in a fight with him because he's CGI.
That's amazing, though. I love your bravery and jumping in so much into such an amazing wilderness and getting stuck in on this.
Yeah, and you should be very proud. Honestly, well done, and look forward to hearing what you do next.
So you guys loved the movie? Did you love it?
It really did.
Honestly, it's really cool. It's really great movie.
It's an unusual pairing, right? That you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, no, I think it had an amazing lead. I loved all the axe throwing and the stunts. And from a cultural level, it's just nice. It sort of puts you into nature, and I love hiking. I think a lot of people love that connection to nature, and it just has all those elements. And obviously, everything you want from Predator. So
Yep.
yeah, great
It's
movie.
perfect.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Enjoy London. Wish we were in person.
I know we should have done in person. I would love
Crazy.
to see you guys.
Yeah, next time for sure. Thanks,
Thank
Jane.
you.
take
Have a lovely
care.
day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Why do you want to hunt?
Because you all think that I can't. I saw a sign in the sky. I'm ready.
Maui, Nita.
There's something out there. I'm coming with you.
You can't.
I'm trying to protect you.
Protect me from what? It's time.
It knows how to hunt. I know how to survive. Whatever did this, I can kill it.
So there we have it. That was the delightful Jhane Myers. Wasn't she cool?
She was very cool.
Yeah, she was lovely. I mean, fascinating. Having to produce a huge movie like this solo was your sort of almost debut producing gig. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive. This goes to show what you can do if you put your mind to it. So next is fantastic director Dan Trachtenberg. He is the director of one of my favourite films, 10 Cloverfield Lane. I love this movie. It's so good. If you've not seen it, it stars John Goodman, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Bradley Cooper. Not a lot of people know that as the voice. He's also directed some fantastic TV shows, including The Lost Symbol, The Boys, and Black Mirror. So he's been around, he's been doing stuff. But we had a great chat with him, didn't we, Dom?
He's a pretty he's a pretty switched on guy.
Very switched on. What will our audience learn from Dan's chat? What do we talk about?
We talk about 30 years percolating an idea. I mean, that's crazy. That's almost as old as I am.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't supposed to laugh, was I? Yeah, carry on.
Right, Grandpa. Let's not forget how old you are. Let's not forget how
I'm
old
old.
you are. Remember your 50th birthday? You know,
People forget, Dom, because I look younger than you. He also talks about why he had to do secretive PR for 10 Cloverfield Lane, because obviously it was connected with Cloverfield, and how J.J. Abrams kept all his films under wraps. So 10 Cloverfield Lane just blew out of that. And why this time he's actually doing press for the first time as, you know, a film is being released. He talks about what it's like to make a survivalist movie and why a Native American lead.
He also talks about action in small and large places, how you can tell a story within scenes, and also giving some amazing advice.
One thing I like that he said as well, is if you only had one shot to tell the story or scene that you're doing, what is it? As a director, what are you thinking about to tell the story if one shot, if you just had to, and can you do it that way? I think that was really interesting. And he also talks about working in prep and with his DOP. I really loved chatting to Dan. He was really cool, really interesting, insightful. I wish we had longer. I really do.
I liked what he did with locations and action. I mean, I always remember what James Cameron said about, there's no point having an action scene if it's not driven by story. People get bored very quickly. And there are certain franchises, which I won't mention, where you have an hour and a half of action with no breaks, and you just switch off and you stop caring. But one thing that he did very well in Prey is using the geography to tie in directly with the characters and the enemies and what's going on with these fight sequences. So it's all very well interlinked, and it's a very clever way to actually shoot, because it feels very authentic, and you're still getting these amazing places, but you're creating something that's influenced by the people rather than just, let's blow this up because that'll be cool.
Absolutely. I thought it was beautifully done. I think it's a really stunning film. It's one of those. It is like Apocalypto. It is that vibe of film. If you like those type of films, you're going to love this. It's really cool. It is out on Friday. Do go watch this film. If you like Predator films, if you like any of that, if you like survivalist movies, like I said, I think you're going to really enjoy it. Cool. Well, let's get to it then. And here's myself and Dom chatting with Dan Trachtenberg. Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Do you know what?
Pretty decent. Yeah.
Pretty decent. How's your time in London so far?
Good. It's been a lot of it spent looking at this computer monitor under a video camera with lights pointed at my face. But
yes, but what you do have, Dan, is a very fancy poster backdrop behind you of Prey, which does look amazing.
Is that real though, or is it green screen?
That's true. Is it green screen?
No, it's real.
But yeah, it must feel great. Right? All the time spent trying to get a film made. And I know it took you a long time trying to get this one made to now actually it's coming out. It's out in days. Must feel great.
This is my first time being able to speak in this capacity also so freely. Of course, there's secrets that I love to keep and want to keep about this movie. But on the last time I did this for 10 Cloverfield Lane, that movie was so secretive that while doing this component, and I love talking about movies. It's one of my favorites. It's why I'm making movies, because I love them so much. So it was very hard to never be able to talk about it, and then even when I could talk about it, I couldn't really talk about it. So it's been fun doing this. Or yes, this is something I've been working on forever. I love it so much, and I'm now so proud of the work that we all did with it that it's fun to be able to tell people about it.
Absolutely. And you should be really proud. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
We love this movie, didn't we, Dom?
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Really great. And look, you said there how it took so long. Is it 30 years since the idea first came to you? If I read that right, the idea of a Predator movie.
30 years? Only, I guess, if you count
Well, when you were like a real young, as a kid, didn't someone?
Yeah. Because when I was a kid, because I couldn't, I wasn't allowed to see R-rated movies, and obviously Predator's R-rated, so I wasn't allowed to see it. I was in the third grade when it came out. We were in the back. We were in a carpool on the way to a karate tournament. Myself and a bunch of sixth graders, and they had all just seen Predator.
Naughty. They shouldn't have.
Well, it's actually 12. It's,
Sure.
Not technically they shouldn't have, but yes, I think that's fine. So they described the whole movie to me in the back, on the drive to the karate tournament. And I distinctly remember them saying there was a scene with Billy, the Native American tracker, on a waterfall. On a bridge over a waterfall fighting the Predator. And of course, I eventually saw the movie, and that scene is not in the movie. It's implied, but it's not in the movie.
No. It's amazing, their imagination, that they thought that was actually in the movie because it was described so well. Isn't that amazing?
There's so many. I've now had to really thank my mom, because she was so strict. I really was the last person to be allowed to watch R-rated movies in my school. And the first soundtrack the first audio cassette tape I ever owned was the soundtrack to Rambo 3. And I would listen to that every day on the way to camp, and would imagine my own version of Rambo. So there's so many of these things that I really resented my parents for. for being so limiting, and unfortunately, I now have to thank them, or fortunately, I guess. But you know, like
reluctant with the parents.
no, it's good. We love them,
Of course.
and it really fueled my imagination and in a very formative moments in my life. So
I suppose technically the seed was planted maybe 30-ish, maybe 20 years
Exactly.
ago. Yeah, exactly. That seed of it. When was the moment where you felt actually you did want to direct a Predator movie, or you wanted to come up with the idea? Can you remember that? Was there a moment when you thought, actually, this could be a real thing? Was it before 10 Cloverfield Lane or?
No,
after?
it was after 10 Cloverfield Lane. I was thinking a lot about Fury Road had come out, and so I was very inspired and driven to see, like, could I make a movie that was like primarily told through action, and really and thinking about making a survivalist movie in the vein of Gravity or Revenant, of course, and but didn't want it to just be man against the elements and just be a visceral experience, really wanting it to be an emotional one. And I happen to love sports movies. I'm not an athlete. I do not watch sports, but I love sports films.
I love sports films as well.
So I thought, maybe it would be cool to take the engine of a sports movie and put it into this genre film. And then thinking about that, it was like, well, it would be great if like the protagonists was someone that never gets to be the protagonist in a movie. And Native American and Comanches specifically are so often relegated to playing the sidekick or the villain and never the hero. So I was taking all of those things and they all just kind of fused together into my first pitch for the movie.
And did you always know that you were going to set it in a different time period? I mean, I think that's one of the most fascinating things. Obviously, the cultural element is really interesting and makes the film unique.
Arriving on that notion of wanting to make a movie where Native Americans were at the head of it, it became more exciting to not to be where we usually see them merely included, in the 1800s, like in cowboy time, the proper Western, but to go back even further. And this is set around the time of the Comanche, the height of the Comanche Empire, so.
And I think it makes the action like really fascinating because obviously they're having to fight something without any of the modern weapons. Which makes, you did really well on the action sequences, and I'd love to know sort of your input on that. But it's all incredibly fast paced, and it's very well thought out how to actually use the Predator against themselves, and all that kind of angle. Yeah,
that it wanted to make sure that even before the Predator shows up, that we see the Comanche as awesome, formidable warriors, and have a bit of adrenalized fun even before more of the genre elements enter the fold. So,
and I suppose jumping on Dom's question there about the action, look, the action here is spectacular. And, I'm a huge fan of 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think it's a fantastic movie. And it was really interesting here to see obviously there was a lot of action in that, but it was contained. You had that containedness of it, obviously set in that one location pretty much. But here you've got the expanse, you've got this, you can go bigger. How was that sort of jumping from 10 Cloverfield Lane to Prey, where it is bigger, the action is bigger? Maybe it's not, maybe you go, no, it's not at all. It'd be really interesting to know what your thoughts were on how you managed to get the actors to do those kind of performances within the action. Like you say, it's quite action driven, and what your thought process as a director was to get that.
It's so interesting because so often people would remark about to me when I was doing press for 10 Cloverfield Lane, it was like, oh, it must have been so challenging to make a movie all in one location. And my dirty secret was that, no, that's what made it easier. It was just one location, not just from like a mental capacity, like managerial standpoint of a production, but also from a filmmaking perspective, having your toolkit very clearly laid out in front of you allows you to be so much more creative and inspired to, okay, if we only have these, so then what can we do? And we've already done this in this location and this room. Like, so let's try and find what's a better way to articulate, and when we're this script said exterior forest day for most of it, we started scouting and we were just looking at trees. It was like, do you want to shoot those trees or do you want to shoot those trees? And it was so hard. And you really have to always remember what is the core story that you're telling, because you can't really look at the thing and go, oh, I like those trees more than those. You can a little bit from the aesthetics of it, but when things look so similar, you have to go to, okay, well, what is the point of the scene in this setting? How can I select the best place to best articulate this scene? And it's what helps breed the specifics in the mud pit and the way that space looks. The burnt glade sequence comes from wanting there to be more of a reflection of what's happening story-wise in the aesthetics of the scene, and of course being a unique space that allows for what's happening with the predator and his cloak in that scene is because of what is happening in the environment, and all of that comes into play. You asked about working with the actors, and Amber trained so much for the role. All of them, they went through it. I thought, we thought about what happens in military movies where they all go to boot camp for months, a month drilled. Or so to become soldiers, and really wanted this group to feel like a real unit and understand and witness, like, just them moving through the woods, how that may have looked like and felt. And so, Amber's big. There's one big piece of choreography that Amber had to learn. And that really, we spent the most time iterating on. And I really wrestled with how to photograph that, because I grew up inspired by Hong Kong action movies, and really love action flicks and have very specific tastes for action choreography and love when it's got you have a very clear sense of geography, and there's a cleverness to the moment to moment choreography, as well as a cleverness to the design of the overall sequence, and what is now like a oneer in the movie. I really didn't. Sometimes I feel like oneers can be very distracting, and you feel like, oh, I'm watching. I'm watching a oneer now, And I thought it would be very challenging to get it as clear a sense of the choreography if it was all done from one single camera. I felt like, oh no, you need to see it in cuts to understand the cool things that character is doing. But I also was smitten with the idea of, like, to see her do this thing all in one breath would be incredibly rewarding. And we found this, and to being honest, we only had a day to shoot it. And I was like, I don't think we can do it in coverage in a day. So I was sort of forced with, like, okay, figure out a way to make the oneer happen that isn't is as invisible as you can make it, And I think we did find a way for that camera to move around and feel like it's as furious as she is in the scene, and have a bit of grit to it, but not feel like the action is obfuscated, but also feel like you're just barely getting the choreography. You know what I mean? You could have missed some bits, but you're getting other bits, but you're still enjoying. She's doing so many cool things in it, like you're still getting to enjoy that. So I think we did strike the right balance, but it was very, very challenging to get there.
I think sometimes when you have those moments where you're forced into a corner as a filmmaker, you're forced to do something like a oneer, or like, we're just going to have to do this from one side, or, this becomes a two maybe. And sometimes that helps you as a filmmaker director. At the time, you're like, oh God, I wish I had more time. But actually, when you look back, and maybe this is interesting for you now, do you feel you prefer it? Do you prefer that the fact that you were pushed into a corner in a way for time reasons, and you prefer the shot that you have got in there with that particular scene?
Oh, 100%.
There you go.
100%. Yeah. No, the tool that not tool, but the game that the DP Jeff Cutter and I, we've worked together a couple of times now, and what we always do is when we're cracking a scene, we always go like, okay, if we only had one shot to tell the story of this scene, what is that shot? And usually that evolves into, okay, maybe the scene is just a master that evolves, or it becomes, okay, we know from that shot, the coverage becomes obvious because we know this represents the story of that moment, and then clearly we would need to then see this size and that size and the other characters in the scene or whatever. So I find that to be a real useful game to play to help break scenes.
Yeah, totally. Totally. In terms of working with your DP there, do you like to go into detail with them for quite a while beforehand in terms of watching films together, your shots together, shot lists, planning everything out? Like you said there, hey, if we could, tell this in one shot, what would it be? Do you like to go deep with your DPs on your preparation?
Yeah, it's always this process of just going through the script and referencing this movie, that movie. Oh, it's like that shot in this, or it's, oh, remember that thing, whatever. And then we're pulling all those movies. And then over time, we then got this like hard drive filled with the movies that are our reference points. And we're constantly bringing those up and studying them. We get lost and we just end up spending a day watching, scenes from movies and then comb through the script again and then comb through the script again. And it's always going like, oh yeah, this scene, remember we got this, we had this idea for the scene. Cool. We got that. And then we're always putting off the thing where it's so daunting and we still haven't talked about how we're going to do that, and you eventually get there, and it's almost always, we never get all the way through in prep. There's always a little bit of a hole and it's always a thing you're dreading on the schedule. But by that point, you realize there's the movie's tendencies. Oh, we tend to do this in these kinds of moments in this movie. We tend to do this. What felt really vague and daunting at the beginning starts to become much clearer just by having made part of the movie already.
And did you find it challenging, going with what a history the Predator has versus creating what's quite an original story? Did you find it difficult sort of finding that balance with, the iconography and all the fans and that kind of thing?
Certainly, yeah. And I'm as much a fan as anyone. So it certainly felt like I had my own pressure I was putting on myself, and really wanted to make sure that this thing would look undeniably like the Predator, but also feel as new as we possibly could make it. Because it's something that the first movie did so well, is that, you saw it cloaked and you were like, oh my God, is that the movie monster? And then you saw it decloak and with the biomask and you're like, oh no, that's the movie's monster. And then that thing, the mask comes off and you go, oh no, that's the movie monster, And none of the movies since then have ever been able to really work with that formula. So I really wanted this to be as exciting as that first one was, even for diehard fans of the franchise. And because we were set in the past, I felt like we sort of owed it for this thing to feel much different. And I frankly really wanted to further fulfill the promise of the premise of this. It's this alien creature that has come down to our planet, and do the best we could to make it feel as little like it's a man in a suit driving it, and as much like it is really a feral creature that can at once feel animalistic and ferocious, but also feel intelligent and advanced. And usually those are two separate creature ideas. And that's the exciting thing about the Predator, is that it's sort of both ideas in one, but also harder to iterate on.
And I thought you did a very good job, especially with the Predator fighting the bear, of actually showing this kind of escalation of apex Predator. No pun intended.
It's done an incredible job. It's really impressive what you've done with this. I love the stripped back version of the Predator. It's really clever. Well done. It's super film. Everyone should go watch it. It's really great. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
And if there was one word you could give a bit of advice for filmmakers, it's ridiculous, I know, but I'm throwing it in because we've literally got 10 seconds left. A bit of advice that you would give to filmmakers out there trying to get their first film made, what would it be?
Oh, trying to get their first film made. I don't know. The thing I was going to say before you threw in that last little extra thought to it was watch movies with their sound off. That's how I learned more than any film class, was take your favorite movie that you know so well. For me, it was Raiders, and turn it on, mute it, and pause before every scene and remind yourself what the scene is about, and then hit play. And especially with, for the guy like Spielberg, it's like you just see like, oh my God, like just, without any words, without any music, whatever, like he is telling the story of what needed to be told for the scene. So
brilliant. What a great bit of advice. Dan, you're amazing. Keep up the brilliant work. Enjoy your time talking to Zooms today as best you can.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, Dan. Bye.
Bye.
That was our chat with Dan and Jhane. Whoa, indeed. Get another filmmaking legend on this podcast, another big director, and another great producer. Yeah, man. Loved it. So good. Prey is available on Friday, the 5th of August. Do go support this brilliant film. Do go support these brilliant filmmakers. Thank you so much for listening. You can go out there and make your films. You can make it happen. Even if it takes 30 years, as it did for Dan Trachtenberg, you can do it. Believe in yourself and get out there. If you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty
To send the elevator back.
to send the predator back down. Oh. We will see you next Tuesday. As always, thank you for listening. You're all superstars. Take care.
If you enjoy the Filmmakers podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon.
Okay, I can do an owl.
All right.
Alrighty. And
Hang on. I can do it now as well. Hang on. Let me do it now first.
I can do a goat. Ready? And you can't do an owl.
Hang on.
Okay, I can do the
Hang on.
Jurassic Park theme tune. Here we go. Done as a
Fuck's sake.
as a wood pigeon. Here we go. Do a bear.